Okay, so it's the new year. I have a friend who has set their New Year's resolution as doing as many leak code questions as they possibly can. And I told him that's probably not the best idea. And my first reason for that, and for those of you who aren't starting but looking for a new project, is that it doesn't add to your portfolio. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that it's completely pointless doing. Leak code is very strong at taking you from very easy algorithm and data structure questions and slowly progressing you to more confidently tackle them, but also they're quite abstract and academic. So it comes down to that old problem of how long do you spend preparing for something instead of just doing it, learning from the mistakes, and then getting better. There needs to be a distribution of both, but I think for people first trying to learn how to code, it's probably better just to find a problem that's worth solving and moving forward with it. And that would be my last point of why I don't like leak code for beginners, is it doesn't have purpose. Now, sure, you might have started off having watched a video of somebody who had solved 1,500 leak code questions and been inspired, but that inspiration is going to quickly run out when you're just doing questions for the sake of doing questions, instead of having something meaningful that you actually want to solve. Now, if you've clicked on this video, the chances are you're into fitness and you're looking to expand your portfolio or learn to code. And if so, maybe you have an Apple Watch or an Android equivalent. The data on these things typically is quite generic. It's limited to whatever the developers have given you and whatever apps that you can buy. Now, I'm sure that this idea isn't original and there's probably an app out there that can do it, but part of software is solving your own problems. And for my friend who was trying to get into software, this was a really interesting choice because she's somebody who does a lot of cycling, so she has a lot of data. And I thought, okay, well, why not, instead of doing 1,000 leak code questions, why don't you try and capture that data and do something programmatically with it? So I don't know if you know this, but on Apple, you can export your Apple Health data to a CSV format. If you're on Android, it's even easier to get that data because Apple like to gatekeep all of their information. So when you export it, you'll probably get something like this, something split into the different types of data that you've saved. So for example, I do quite a bit of running, so we're going to look at that. Now, it splits it up quite nicely. You have your activity, the duration, the distance, the energy burned, and you could take this data and try and import it into Python. Now, if you're a complete beginner, what you want to do, and this is true of any point where you get stuck with software, is you just want to Google, how do I open an Excel file in Python? And it will give you step by step. If you read through, just go to this website because this seems to do the job, and it will talk you through how to get that data into Python. Okay, so cool, you have the data. What next? Well, there's data visualization packages in Python that do more than just actually viewing the data, but projecting it out into the future. Say that this was you plotting your runs, for example, you'd be able to not only look at how you've progressed since, say, January of last year to January of this year, you'd also be able to draw a line of best fit and see, okay, when I'm regularly exercising, on average, how much does my distance improve per unit of time? And what you could do is you could project that maybe a month into the future and set that as a meaningful goal for next month. Okay, I want to improve more in a month than I would on average last year. Also, if you have an event coming up or you wanted to do an event, you could predict with the data that you've imported whether it's achievable. So for example, say currently you're running a certain pace in your park runs, your 5Ks or your 10Ks, and you wanted to know, okay, when would I be ready for a marathon? This is the kind of information that you would use to make those kinds of predictions. What I would recommend if you start this project is that first of all, you use source control and make it open source, because we're not reinventing the wheel here. This isn't something probably that you want to try and privatize. I mean, maybe if you want to go all the way and you're somebody who isn't learning to code but wants to make something production level, then sure. I mean, do this full stack, don't use existing tools for visualization, and I'm sure you could make an app out of this. If you're using public source control like GitHub, you're going to be able to use this in an interview as part of your portfolio. And when you get those questions like, okay, what past experience do you have? You're not just going to name the same beginner's project that everybody's done, be it a to-do list or a basic website. No, you've actually gone into your interests, and maybe on your CV you mentioned that you're into running or you're into cycling or you're into swimming, and you thought, I have all this information, I'm going to collate it and I'm going to use it to predict future progress. And suddenly you've got an interesting standpoint that you don't have to feign interest in because it's something that links in with the things that you're passionate about. I mean, just for reference, health optimization, is one of the fastest growing areas of interest at the moment. I think Huberman Lab has just made #1 on Apple Podcasts. This is something that if you take into interviews or even talk to software engineers about, the chances are you're going to find somebody who would be really interested in a project like this, and it's going to help you make connections and network. Now, if you find yourself having no data and not being able to even start this, that's not a problem. I have a video on how, as somebody with tech interests, can start and progress in fitness. So if you click the video here, hopefully I can help you out. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the description. And also, if you want individual coaching, I offer one-to-one coaching, which is also in the description. Cheers.